pranam mantras. We'll start with pranam and then our introduction prayer. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvisvesha Shunyavadi Paschatadishadharine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome to this evening session. Let us all turn to page 1 and read the introduction prayer. Page 1 of your Bhagavad Gita as it is, introduction prayer. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrinda Vrindeshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everyone after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Grantara Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hey devotees, I'm Hare Krishna. I'm going to be sharing my screen now for the duration of this class today. Just let me know when you can see. Hare Krishna. Can everybody see the screen?
Good on
yes,
my
side. We can see it.
Okay, right. So today we're going to aim to do verses 8 to 15. I don't know if time is going to permit, but we shall try. Last week I did mention there were a few questions asked, and I said that, I would answer it briefly. But I don't want to go into too much detail with, the characters of Bhagavad Gita in chapter 1, because if I go into too much of detail, we're going to be concentrating on the Mahabharata story, and which is very nice to study as well. But at this point, we've chosen to study Bhagavad Gita. So let us try and get through the Bhagavad Gita first. And who knows, maybe at a later stage, if the Lord wills it, we can do Mahabharata as well. So we're going to start from verse 8. We stopped at verse 8 last week. So let's just start with verse 8. Everybody can follow with me. Chapter 1, verse 8. So today I put it on the screen for everyone's ease of reference as well. Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bhavan Bhishmascha Karnascha, Kripascha Samitam Jayah, Ashvatama Vikarnascha, Somadatastate Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The text. There are personalities like you, Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, Ashwatthama, Vikarna, and the son of Somadatta, called Bhurishvara, who are always victorious in battle. Shalina Mataji, please, can you read the purport? Sorry, before you continue, I know we didn't read the English of the introduction today. We are running a little bit late, so if that's okay with everybody, or we can go back. Okay, I want to proceed.
Yes, Mataji, we may proceed.
Okay, you can read the English then, Mataji. Text 8, the purport.
Sure. Duryodhan mentions the exceptional heroes in the battle, all of whom are ever victorious. Vikarna is the brother of Duryodhan, Ashwatthama is the son of Dronacharya, and Somadhiti or Bhurisvara is the son of the king of the Bhalikas. Karna is the half-brother of Arjun, and he was born of Kunti before her marriage with King Pandu. Kripacharya's twin sister married Dronacharya.
Okay, so it's quite a history here, as everybody can see, right? So I'm going to give you all a brief on that a little bit later on. There's so many characters, as I mentioned, and it might get a bit confusing for some of us, so we won't go into too much of detail, but we'll touch base on who these characters are now very quickly. So the next slide. It's just a brief synopsis of this family tree, right? So there was a king called Vichitravirya. Prior to that, there's quite a history as well. I'm not going to get into it. Vichitravirya passed away. He was a king, and he didn't have any sons. So Vyasadeva was summoned by Vichitravirya's mother to father an heir to the throne. And he did this through his yogic power. And from him came the 3 sons, Pandu, Dhritarashtra, and Vidur. The mother of Pandu was Ambalika. The mother of Dhritarashtra was Ambika. And the mother of Vidura was their maid servant. Now Pandu was married to Kunti and Madhuri. He had 2 wives. And he had 5 sons who were known as the Pandavas, right? Sons of Pandu known as the Pandavas. They were Yudhishthir, Arjuna, Bhim, Nakul, and Sahadev. So Nakul and Sahadev were sons of Madhuri, and the other sons were sons of Kunti Devi. Dhritarashtra married Gandhari, the blind king Dhritarashtra. He married Gandhari, and he had 100 sons. Those sons were Duryodhana brothers. Okay, that's just a brief. Now let's move on to the next slide. Sorry, if you can just give me 1 minute, please, devotees. I'm sorry to do this to you, because at the bottom of my screen, I actually had little notes. And if I proceed, I don't see my notes here. I think it's because of the way I set up my screen. Anybody know about that? See, at the bottom, I had notes. So I think I'm going to have to like unminimize this, so to speak. I'm not quite sure how to do it. Okay, Shankar. We'll read the next text in the meantime while I'm trying to sort that out, right? Right, next text, text 9. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Anyecha Bhavaha, Sushura Mad Arte Tyakta Jivataha, Nana Shastra Prahalrana, Sarve Yuddha Visharadaha, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, devotees, can I have somebody please read the translation and the purport? In the meantime, I'm going to try and sort out my notes, all right? Thank you. Anybody can read? Who wants to read? Veronica Mataji, you want to read? Haribol?
Unmuted.
Okay, thank you.
Chapter 1, text 9. Sorry, I'm a bit backwards today because I had a few things happening at home just now. Is it chapter 1, text 9?
Correct.
Chapter 1, text 9. Okay, 1 second. Okay, am I reading the English?
You can read the English purport, the translation and the purport, please.
Okay. There are many other heroes who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake, and all of them are well equipped with different kinds of weapons, and all are experienced in military science. The purport, as far as others are concerned, like Jayadratha, Kratavarma, and Salya, all are determined to lay down their lives for Duryodhana's sake. In other words, it's already concluded that all of them would die in the battle of Kurukshetra for joining the party of the sinful Duryodhana. Duryodhana was, of course, confident of his victory on account of the above-mentioned combined strength of his friends. Okay.
Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you. You can sort it.
Haribol.
Right, so there were many heroes who were prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. So you see, Duryodhana is talking now. He is feeling very happy about the fact that he's got Bhishma Dev on his side and all these strong characters. And he says that, look at them, they are here to lay down their lives for me. And I'm so happy that I've got all these strong people on my side. But Srila Prabhupada says that actually speaking, when he says Tyaktva Jivataha, right? Tyaktva Jivataha, if you read the English meaning of it in your Bhagavad Gita, it says prepared to risk their lives. But it's already predetermined. Krishna had already determined that all these people who are fighting on the battlefield on the side of the Kauravas are going to die anyway. It was already planned. You know, we speak of higher power or higher arrangement. Say this is higher arrangement, it was meant to be. It was intervention of the Lord. You know, in our day-to-day lives, how many of you have had those experiences? You have, right? At some point or the other. Right. So likewise, this was all planned by Krishna. And it was planned by Krishna, you know why? Because Duryodhana and his brothers were fighting this war, according to Srila Prabhupada, for selfish reasons. They wanted personal gain. They wanted to benefit from it. They wanted to benefit from the luxuries of, ruling and having the kingdom and all the opulences. But the duty of a Kshatri is to protect society, to protect their citizens. And also, not only the Kshatriyas, but all of us, we are meant to, offer all our services to Krishna. Everything we do is supposed to be doing for Krishna, for his pleasure, not ours. But this wasn't the mindset of Duryodhana and his brothers. So any such rule where you are looking to just satisfy yourself for selfish reasons and, that kind of thing is demoniac ruling. Now, Krishna did not want demoniac ruling. He wanted the rule to be under care of pious people, God-conscious society, God-conscious people. And of course, the Pandavas were God-conscious. So he wanted the rule to be, the ruling to be done by them. So when Duryodhana says here, Tyagva Jivata, he says, oh, hey, look, they prepared to lay down their lives for me. Little does he know that they are going to die. Even he is going to die. Everyone's going to die because, the Pandavas have Krishna on their side, as we discussed previously. So victory is definitely on their side. Okay, so let's proceed to the next verse. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Aparyatam tat asam ashmakam balam bhishma virakshitam prapyatam idam etesham balam bhima virakshitam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Paramatma Prabhu, can you read for us, please? Text 10.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Our strength is immeasurable and we are perfectly protected by Grandfather Bhishma, whereas the strength of the Pandavas, carefully protected by Bhima, is limited.
Okay, can go on, please, if you don't mind, Paramatma Prabhu.
Okay, purport.
Yes.
Herein, an estimation of comparative strength is made by Duryodhana. He thinks that the strength of his armed forces is immeasurable, being specifically protected by the most experienced general, Grandfather Bhishma. On the other hand, the forces of the Pandavas are limited, being protected by a less experienced general, Bhima, who is like a fig in the presence of Bhishma. Duryodhana was always envious of Bhima because he knew perfectly well that he should die at all. That if he should die at all, he would be only killed by Bhima. But at the same time, he was confident of his victory on account of the presence of Bhishma, who was a far superior general. His conclusion that he would come out of the battle victorious was well ascertained. Thank you, Mataji.
Sorry, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you very much for that reading. All right, so here it goes on from the last verse. We see Duryodhana is still very happy about the fact that he's got all these people on his side. Hare Krishna, can everybody see my screen now? Paramatma Prabhu, can you see?
Yes, Mataji, I can see, but the page is a bit small though.
Yeah, you see. Can you see now?
We can see it. Yeah. Maybe because I'm using a cell phone, you see. That's the reason why.
Oh, okay. I don't know if it's okay with everybody else.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to trace back because I had lost my notes and Kishan just kindly helped me to sort it out now. I just want to add what Prabhupada said, going back to the prior verse. We spoke about Tyagva Jivataha, that it indicates that, the rest of the army will surely die, Duryodhana and Pati. And then also very interestingly, Prabhupada draws our attention to, if you can see the screen, the last two words of the last part of the verse, Yuddha Visharada, right? Even though, what Prabhupada says is that even though the fighting is so expert by Duryodhana and Pati, they will still die because it was all Krishna's plan. And everything belongs to Krishna. It is all his creation. You see, the land was here before we appeared, right? The land will be here after we leave. And therefore, we must understand that Krishna is the proprietor of this land, of this world of creation. He's complete and everything emanates from him. And a nice reference in this regard is from the Sri Isha Upanishad. So let's go to that slide. Everybody will be, I'm sure, is familiar with this verse. Can you see that on my screen? You can read with me if you like, right? Nice reference, mantra 1. It goes like this. Om Purnam Adha Purnamidham Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. So it means the personality of Godhead, that's in reference to Krishna, is perfect and complete. And because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as a complete whole. Whatever is produced of this complete whole is also complete by itself. And because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. So in essence, what is this mantra saying to us? That Krishna is the original. He's the source of creation, and everything that comes from him is complete because he himself is complete. So you see how it ties up in relation to that verse that we just discussed, that this war is going on for this piece of land by Duryodhana and Bhati for their own sense gratification, for their own purposes. But they're forgetting whom it actually belongs to. And Krishna arranged this whole war so that the rule gets handed over to pious God-conscious. He wanted a God-conscious society. So there's a picture of our Krishna, who's complete and beautiful. So you see, Krishna, he enjoys his pastimes with his devotees in the spiritual world. Remember, we spoke about the spiritual world. It's called Goloka Vrindavan. And the aim of studying Bhagavad Gita should be rather that is going to be our destination very soon. And that world, spiritual world, is not subject to time. It's not subject to the fourfolds of miseries like we have on the material planet, which is the fourfold of misery is what? Birth, death, old age, and disease. It's not subject to all of that. And Lord Brahma nicely describes the spiritual world as Chintamani, Prakara Sadma Shukalpa Vriksha. It's filled with, beautiful gems, touchstones, and Surabhi cows that give endless supplies of milk, and wish-fulfilling trees. Beautiful description. So ultimately, this is our destination, and that's why we actually trying hard to study the Bhagavad Gita and Prabhupada's texts and notes. Okay, did we read text 10 yet? Not yet. Haribol, did we read 10?
Yes, Mataji, we just read 10. Huh?
Okay, right, we read 10, right? So let's move on to 11. Text 11. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Anyeshu cha sarveshu yata bhagam avashtitah Bhishmam eva vikarshantu bhavanta sarva eva hi. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Who wants to read for me now? Shalina Mataji?
Sure. Hare Krishna. Purport. All of you must now give full support to Grandfather Bhishma as you stand at your respective strategic points of entrance into the phalanx of the army.
Go on reading, Mataji.
Duryodhana, after praising the prowess of Bhishma, further considered that others might think that they had been considered less important. So in his usual diplomatic way, he tried to adjust the situation in the above words. He emphasized that Bhishma Deva was undoubtedly the greatest hero, but he was an old man, so everyone must especially think of his protection from all sides. He might become engaged in the fight, and the enemy might take advantage of his full engagement on one side. Therefore, it was important that other heroes not leave their strategic points and allow the enemy to break the phalanx. Duryodhana clearly felt that the victory of the Kurus depended on the presence of Bhishma Deva. He was confident of the full support of Bhishma Deva and Dronacharya in the battle, because he well knew that they did not even speak a word when Arjuna's wife Draupadi was in her health condition, had appealed to them for justice while she was being forced to appear naked in the presence of the great generals in the assembly. Although he knew that the two generals had some sort of affection for the Pandavas, he hoped that these generals would now completely give it up, as they had done during the gambling performances.
Okay. So there's a little bit of a background here as well. If you're familiar with the Mahabharata story, then you will know, but I'll just touch on it briefly. You see, in the Mahabharata, Draupadi and her brother, Dhrishtadyumna, were born from yajna, from a fire sacrifice. This fire sacrifice was organized by King Drupada. King Drupada was father of, obviously, of Draupadi. Arjuna won Draupadi's hand in marriage, but she had to marry the 5 brothers. This is very interesting. This is why. Because you see, when Arjuna went to this this competition, to this stringing bow competition, to Draupadi and won her hand in marriage, he went home very happily with his 5 brothers. His mother was busy inside, and he said, "Look, mother, what we have brought. We've brought something really nice." So the mother, without looking, said, "Okay, no problem. Why don't you just share whatever you brought? I'm coming out just now." And obviously everybody was taken aback, and they were so shocked and what to do now, because especially back then in our Vedic culture, it's very important to obey the instructions of your elders of authority, what to speak of your mother. So because the mother said, "You've got to share what you brought," the 5 brothers had to share the one wife, being Draupadi. That's how the Pandavas ended up, Draupadi ended up with 5 husbands, being the Pandavas. And when Draupadi obviously came out and realized what had happened, she was very regretful. It was not intentional, right? So you see, Draupadi, at one time, Krishna had a wound on his hand, as you can see the picture. Can you all see the picture at the bottom? Right, this picture here. He had a wound on his hand. So Draupadi, out of great affection and devotion, she tore a piece of cloth and tied Krishna's wound as an offering to Krishna, and for protection and relief from his wound. So Krishna was very grateful for that and said to Draupadi, a thought in his mind that he will certainly pay Draupadi back. Now from this we can see a loving exchange between Krishna and his devotee. Draupadi, being a very dear devotee of Krishna, offered kind, loving service, devotional service to Krishna, and Krishna repaid her. Krishna repaid her. Can you see the picture to the right? Draupadi being disrobed in this assembly. Sorry, I know the picture is a bit small, but can you all see it? Okay, so Draupadi was being disrobed in this in this assembly of the Kuruvas in the palace, where a gambling game of dice game was taking place between the Duryodhana and brothers and Arjuna and brothers. Arjuna and brothers lost. So, okay, the story goes into quite much detail, but briefly what happened is they said that they were going to own Draupadi. And they were very disrespectful to her. One of the brothers loosened her hair, another started pulling at her sari, trying to disrobe her in front of that entire assembly of people seated there. So, she kept on holding and clinging onto her sari and, calling out for everybody. And then she was eventually calling out for Krishna as well, but she was still holding onto her cloth very tightly. But as soon as she left it, and as you can see in this picture, she raised her both arms up and said, called out for Krishna, Krishna, Govinda. Krishna came immediately. It's very small, but you can see Krishna on the top. He manifested himself in the form of a sari. And that sari, no matter how much they pulled, it just continued and continued and continued to get more and more long. because Krishna was providing that cloth. So that's how Krishna repaid his dear devotee. Very interesting story. Very nice example for us to learn from. To have faith in the Lord, trust in the Lord, and know that, He will always be at your side. And as we read more verses in the Bhagavad Gita, it will all unfold, and you will see the instructions coming through from Krishna. And, you just have to have faith. So let's move on to the next verse, right? We're going to read verse 12 now. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Tasya Sanjanayan Harsham Kuru Vriddha Pitamaha Simhanadam Vinad Yochai Shankam Dadamo Pratapavan. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, Risha Mataji, would you like to read for us? Would like to read for us? You can unmute. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Then Bhishma, the great valiant grandsire of the Kuru dynasty, the grandfather of the fighters, blew his conch shell very loudly, making a sound like the roar of a lion, giving Duryodhana joy. Purport: The grandsire of the Kuru dynasty could understand the inner meaning of the heart of his grandson Duryodhana, and out of his natural compassion for him, he tried to cheer him by blowing his conch shell very loudly, befitting his position as a lion. Indirectly, by the symbolism of the conch shell, he informed his depressed grandson Duryodhana that he had no chance of victory in the battle, because the Supreme Lord Krishna was on the other side. But still, it was his duty to conduct the fight, and no pains would be spared in that connection.
Right, so we can understand from here that, Duryodhana, we'll notice from the beginning that Duryodhana was nervous. He was in much anxiety, right? He was worried about losing the battle, because he knew in his heart of hearts, it's called like intuition. He was nervous. He knew that they may not be victorious, because firstly, Krishna was on the side of Arjuna and Pati, and they were pious. He knew that his cousins were pious and they were devotees. So he was very, worried about the battle right from day one, right from the beginning. So grandfather Bhishma, understanding the heart of his grandson, he was sorry for him. So he blew his conch shell just to give him that, to cheer him up. But also indirectly, Prabhupada says here in his purport that indirectly the symbol of the conch shell, right? That symbol of the conch shell shows that what it says here. Let's read it again. Indirectly, by the symbolism of the conch shell, he informed the depressed grandson Duryodhana that he had no chance of victory in the battle. His grandfather Bhishma knew that. Remember, Bhishma Dev was a very great devotee, or is a very great devotee of Krishna. And he understood very well that the Kauravas were wrong. He understood that Arjuna and they were pious and devotees of Krishna as well. So obviously victory was going to be on their side. Let's move on to the next text. Text number 13. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Tataha Shankascha Bhiryascha Panavanaka Gaumukaha Sahasheva Bhaya Hanyanta Sasabshabdastu Molo Bhavat. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. After that, conch shells, drums, bugles, trumpets, and horns were all suddenly sounded, and the combined sound was tumultuous. So it was a big sound. Can you imagine all the conch shells blowing on this battlefield?
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Can you me?
Paramatma Prabhu, can we mute everybody, please? Hare Krishna. Okay, that's fine. That's muted. Okay, so let's move on to the next verse. 14, text 14. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Tataha Shvetair Hayir Yukte Mahati Syanhane Stitau Madhavaha Pandavascheva Divyo Shankau Pradat Matau Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Can we have somebody who hasn't read yet as yet? Everybody have a turn to read. Okay, let's go back to Paramatma Prabhu. Can you read? Oh, Kavi Priya Dasi Mataji, if she can. She was having trouble connecting. Okay, so Paramatma Prabhu, can you please read for us?
Hare Krishna Mataji. So
Thank
text
you.
14, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu. Text 14.
On the other side, both Lord Krishna and Arjuna, stationed on a great chariot drawn by white horses, sounded their transcendental conch shells. Purport: in contrast with the conch shell blown by Bhishma Dev, the conch shells in the hands of Krishna and Arjuna are described as transcendental. The sounding of the transcendental conch shells indicated that there was no hope of victory for the other side because Krishna was on the side of the Pandavas. Jayastu Pandu Putranam Yeshu Pakshe Janardana. Victory is always with persons like the sons of Pandu because Lord Krishna is associated with them. And whenever and wherever the Lord is present, the goddess of fortune is also there because the goddess of fortune never lives alone without her husband. Therefore, victory and fortune were awaiting Arjuna, as indicated by the transcendental sound produced by the conch shell of Vishnu, or Lord Krishna. Besides that, the chariot of which both the friends were seated had been donated by Agni, the fire god, to Arjuna. And this indicated that this chariot was capable of conquering all sides wherever it was drawn over the three worlds. Thank you, Manaji.
Thank you, Prabhu. So we can see I've highlighted in red, as you can see, right? The conch shells in the hands of Krishna and Arjuna are described as transcendental. Firstly, it's transcendental because Krishna is transcendental, he's Bhagwan. Arjuna is a pure devotee, he in himself is transcendental, but the conch shells themselves are transcendental. There's a story about Krishna's conch shell, which I'm not going to get into in this class here today, but next week we'll pick up on it because time is not going to permit. So we'll speak about Krishna's conch shell, how he got it and why it was transcendental. So you can see Prabhupada draws our attention to the fact once again that victory was in the hands of the Pandavas because Krishna was on their side. And also, very importantly here, see here, whenever the Lord is present, the goddess of fortune is also there. Now we all know the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi herself, wherever she is, there's going to be victory, there's going to be opulence. And the goddess of fortune will always be at the side of Bhagwan, of the Lord. So the Lord was there, the goddess of fortune was present. Therefore, there was going to be victory. That was another reason. All right, let's move to the next text, which is text 15. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Tatahas, sorry. Panchajanyam Rishikesho Devadattam Dhananjayah Poundaram Dadamo Mahashankam Bhima Karma Vikrodaraha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so we have Shalina Mataji. Can you please read for us? We can share this one. It's quite a long purport.
Okay, Hare Krishna Mataji. Lord Krishna blew his conch shell called Panchajanya. Arjuna blew his, the Devadatta, and Bhima, the voracious eater and performer of Herculean tasks, blew his terrific conch shell called Pandra. Purport, Lord Krishna is referred to as
Rishikesha.
Rishikesha. Thank you, Mata. In this verse, because he is the owner of all senses. The living entities are part and parcel of him, and therefore the senses of the living entities are also part and parcel of his senses. The impersonalists cannot account for the senses of the living entities, and therefore they are always anxious to describe all living entities as senseless or impersonal. The Lord, situated in the hearts of all living entities, directs their senses. But he directs in terms of surrender of the living entity, and in the case of a pure devotee, he directs.
Hold on, Mataji. Sorry, Mataji. Can we just stop here and just discuss a little bit before we move on, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Right. So here, Prabhupada tells us Rishikesha. Rishikesha, as he says here, is referred to, Krishna is referred to as Rishikesha because he is the owner of all senses. So you see, he's not just the owner of Arjuna's senses, he's the owner of all our senses too. And the living entities are part and parcel of Krishna. Therefore, the senses of the living entities are also part and parcel of his senses, of Krishna's senses. Actually here, this is what Srila Prabhupada is training us to do in this movement, to dovetail our activities towards Krishna consciousness, to engage our senses in serving Krishna and thereby satisfying our desires. See, when you satisfy Krishna, then you've satisfied the entire creation, because Krishna is the root and the source of all creation. And when you engage your senses in serving the senses of Krishna, then you become free of karma. And that too will be discussed later on in the Bhagavad Gita. And when you're free from karma, then you are ready. Then you are getting in readiness to go back home. Because as long as you are attached, whether it's good deeds or bad deeds, you are bound. You are definitely going to come back. So if you do bad deeds, you're going to come back to pay for that. If you do good deeds, you're going to come back to reap the benefits of your good deeds. In fact, to go a little bit more, you'll find that, okay, we will be studying the three modes of material nature as well later on in Bhagavad Gita. And we're all governed by the three modes of material nature. So those who are predominantly governed by the mode of goodness, right, that's sattva gun, those who are governed by that mode, obviously are only going to do good deeds. So you'll find that those people will come back and live, they will be born into very good families, God-conscious families, materially opulent families, and they will be given the opportunity to progress further from there. Some of them, people do such good deeds that they attain the heavenly planets. But the heavenly planets are also part of this material world. So once you reach the heavenly planets, you get many years to enjoy the opulences of the heavenly planet. But there's quite a big problem there, because once the jiva, the soul, goes into the heavenly planets, they get so caught up into enjoying the opulences there that they lose sight of their goal. They lose sight of their main goal, that is to reach Krishna. And after their good karma is exhausted in the heavenly planets, they have to come back down to earth. Of course, as I said, they are born into good families and they are given an opportunity to progress again. But as devotees, that's not our, the destination that we want. Because as devotees, you want to make sure that you use every minute in practicing to go back home, because you don't want to waste time. We understand the pain and the suffering of material life. We understand that pain. So we don't want to waste that time here on this planet. Neither do we want to waste that time in the heavenly planets, because we know that the heavenly planet is not the ultimate. If it was ultimate, then we will not be taking rebirth. We will not come back here. It's part of the material world. In fact, I learned in class, my teacher, Mother Roshni. She said to us that when one reaches the heavenly planets, they are given as a gift. As soon as they reach, they're given a long garland, a fresh flower, fragrant flower garland. And it's really long, it touches your feet. And as the years go on and you're busy enjoying all these opulences, flowers slowly start dying off. They start drying. And when all the flowers dry, that indicates that your time is up. And you leave that planet. And unfortunately, a lot of heavenly personalities come back to Earth or to other planetary systems, but the material planets. So that's not our ultimate goal. So you will learn further on in the Bhagavad Gita how to, as I said, to get to a platform where you are not attached to the fruits of your action. So in that case, where you won't accrue any karma. That's where it's very difficult. It's a very high bar, but it's not unachievable. And Krishna will give us all that beautiful nectar, and the nectar starts unfolding from chapter 2. When Arjuna stops talking, Krishna starts from chapter 2. Arjuna speaks again, and when he surrenders, then Krishna gives us all the nectar. And he'll give us all the ways of how we can actually achieve final destiny, Goloka Vrindavan. So, okay, so who wants to read for us next? Veronica Mataji, please. You can read from here on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Veronica Mataji, can you hear me? I think you have to unmute yourself.
Is that the purpose? Yeah.
Yes, from here on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, a little bit further down.
Okay, I'm just trying to look for that spot. I lost it.
It's the 9th line. In my book, it's page 43. We are on text 15. Yeah.
Oh, text 15.
Yeah. Here on the battlefield of Kurukshetra.
Oh God, I didn't see. Okay.
It's like the 9th line down.
Oh, the 9th one.
I think it's 9, yeah.
Okay. Okay, there we go. Here, I've got it. Here on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the Lord directly controls the transcendental senses of Arjuna, and thus his particular name, Rishikesh. The Lord has different names according to his different activities. For example, he's Madhusudana because he killed a demon of the name Madhu. His name is Govinda because he gives pleasure to the cows and to the senses. His name is Vasudev because he appeared as the son of Vasudev. His name is Devaki Nandan because he accepted Devaki as his mother. His name is Yashoda Nandan because he awarded his childhood pastimes to Mother Yashoda in Vrindavan. His name is Parthasarthi because he works as a charioteer of his friend Arjuna. Similarly, his name is Rishikesh because he gave direction to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Arjuna is referred to as Dhananjaya in this verse because he helped his elder brother in fetching wealth when it was required by the king to make expenditures for different sacrifices. Similarly, Bhima is known as Vrikodra because he could eat as voraciously as he could perform Herculean tasks, such as killing the demon Hidima. So the particular types of conch shell blown by the different personalities on the side of the Pandavas, beginning with the lords, were all very encouraging to the fighting soldiers. On the other side, there were no such credits, nor the presence of Lord Krishna, the supreme director, nor that of the goddess of fortune. So they were predestined to lose the battle, and that was the message announced by the sounds of the conch shells. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Okay, so there's one more point I meant to tell you that Prabhupada mentioned earlier on in 2 or 3 verses before this. When Duryodhana was talking, he said, boasting about his army and all of that. He was very proud. Another reason he was very proud of having Bhishma Dev on his side. And he drew sort of a comparison and said that he sort of compared Bhishma Dev to being strong on his side to Bhima on the other side, on the Pandava side. And he said, although Bhima is so mighty and so strong, he's not a very intelligent person, so he insulted Bhima as well. Duryodhana was always envious of Bhima from the time they were little. So if you read through Mahabharata, you will pick this up. So he drew that comparison. And Bhishma Dev was like a grandfather to both the Pandavas and the Kauravas, Arjuna and brothers and Duryodhana and brothers, because he was the cousin of their father. Right? So Bhishma Dev is therefore called grandfather Bhishma. All right. So now it is 5 to 8. We're going to stop here. Have we read the entire purport? Okay. We'll stop here for today. So we have achieved the 15 texts like we wanted to, with the help of the Lord and Prabhupada. We'll continue next week. So we can just take 5 minutes for a quick discussion and your realizations. Maybe it'll be nice for all of you to just give a minute realization each. We can start with Shalina Mataji. Anything you want to offer from what we read, Mataji, please do.
Mataji, I would know the syllables are very difficult. How do you know when an A is silent or when a C is a CH and so forth? Because you do it so beautifully. So I want to know how you learned it.
No, Mataji, that's with the grace of the Lord and Prabhupada, you know. I don't consider myself doing it beautifully. But, you know, if you've got a little bit of knowledge of Sanskrit, the Sanskrit writing, you know, the best way to learn is to compare it to the Sanskrit. And also in the English, if you look at the English alphabets of the Sanskrit, right? Let's take the last one here, for example, chapter 1, text 15. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
See, like Rishi Keshu, see that S, it's got like a small line on the top. Can you see that? See,
yes.
Like a small, like a thing on the top.
See.
So that will be a sh. Rishi Keshu. See? Right. And like if there's a big line on the A, then it's a long A. It's not Maha. Like if you go to the second line, it's Maha. This one here.
Okay.
Maha Shankam. And you see the S again, it's got the thing on the top there. Maha Shankam. Shankam. The KH. Right. And see this I here for Bhima's name. It's Bhima, not Bhima, because the I has a dash on the top. And if you look at the Sanskrit now here, can you see that alphabet on the top? See the B, it's got a long E behind it, like a curl going that way. So you match it to the English, and the English I has the dash on the top. So it's Bhim. See? And Sanskrit, the A's, some of the A's are pronounced as a long R, and those A's will have like a dash on the top in the English.
Thank you, Mataji.
So Mataji, just practice. In fact, must read. I encourage everybody to read when I'm reading as well. We all make mistakes. I make mistakes too. I know I do. And but you know what? Just by practicing, it's very important to read these words, because these are words coming from the divine. These are words of Krishna. So it's very important and purifying for us to read it. And Prabhupada mentioned that Sanskrit is the language of the devas, of the gods. It's very purifying for us, for people listening to it, for the atmosphere itself. It spiritualizes the atmosphere. So it's very good to read. Please, I encourage everybody to read. Just try and read the Sanskrit. And as I said, my mother Roshni also used to make us read in class every week. So that was practice. And my mother also taught us to read Sanskrit from small, Bhagavad Gita, the texts. And she taught us many verses as well. You know, she made us memorize verses. So this also helped a lot. Got to practice. Any other realizations? Veronica, Mataji? We can all just take turns, a minute each.
Okay, so on text 15, Lord Krishna blew his conch shell. I'm just trying to visualize how powerful that sound must have been when Lord Krishna blew his conch shell called the Panchajanya. And yeah, Panchajanya, and Arjuna blew his the Devadatta. and Bhima, the voracious eater, and perform a perking task. He's the pounder. I'm just trying to visualize in my mind how powerful that sound must have been. It must have been so, I can't. I'm trying to, but yeah.
But it's good. It's good that you're trying to. That's what we need
Yeah.
to engage our senses, now engaging your mind in thinking about how it could have been. See, that's what we need.
I'm just wondering.
And also,
Mhm.
Prabhupada said that when Krishna blew his conch shell and the rest of the brothers blew the conch shell, it struck fear in the heart of Duryodhana. It struck fear in the heart of Duryodhana for many reasons. Firstly, the Lord is on his side, and their conch shells were transcendental. They themselves were transcendental. The goddess of fortune, as Prabhupada said, was on their side. So goddess of fortune is always where the Lord is. So all these matters were causing anxiety in Duryodhana's heart. So to put the cherry on the top, they blew their conch shells, and that I think just did it for him.
Absolutely, yeah. It must have been so beautiful.
Thank you, Veronica. Risha Mataji, you want to share something with us? Hare Krishna, Risha. Okay.
Krishna Mataji, no, I don't have anything to share.
Okay, but thank you for joining us. It's so important that everybody's joining and listening and reading through the Lord's texts and Prabhupada's purports.
Yes, thank you for the one.
Paramatma Prabhu, you want to share anything quickly?
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for the wonderful class. Mataji, I just wanted to say, I heard a pastime about Draupadi. She prayed to, I think, Lord Shiva.
Yes.
And she said she wants a husband 5 times. I'm not sure if the story is true. She prayed,
Yes,
and then 5 times she said, "I want a husband."
Yes.
And then you were saying that the mother was saying, you must share whatever you brought. So
that is also true. That is also correct.
Just enlighten us a bit about that part, Mataji.
No, it is correct, because the mother said share, that's also correct. It's in the Mahabharata. And the background story, what you're speaking of, Draupadi praying to Lord Shiva and asking for a husband 5 times. There's a pastime to that also in the Mahabharata. She did ask 5 times, and Lord Shiva said, so be it. So she got 5 husbands. But further to that, there is even more a pastime, even prior to that lifetime of hers. As I said, it gets into very much detail. But we can read up on this in our private moments. Read. I encourage you all to read as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Bharati, you want to offer anything? Just share your realization, what you think of the verses so far. Anything. Then you can unmute yourself just for half a minute. Okay, I think maybe Bharati's having trouble with her muting or unmuting. It's fine. Okay, so if we've got no more realizations for today, we'll end here. Let's just quickly do Nishingadev's pranams and then we'll end the class. Just gone slightly over. Everyone together, please. Namaste Narashingaya Praladaladatayine Hiranyakashiputachaha Shilatankanakanaye Ito Nashingo Parato Nashingo Yato Yato Yamitato Nashingo Ahir Nashingo Hitaye Nashingo Narasimham Matim Sharanam Bhavage Tava Kara Kamala Vare Kakam Madhuta Sringam Lalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Vingam Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadi Jahare Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare Tava Kara Kamala Vare Adbhutam Adbhuta Singam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Vringam Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jaya Nrsimhadev 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 Jai Nrsimhadev Jaya Narahari 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 Hare Jaya Narahari Jaya Lakshmi Nrsimha Lakshmi Nrsimha Jaya Lakshmi Nrsimha Jaya Lakshmi Nrsimha Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Radha Radhe Jaya Radha Krishna Radhe Jaya Gaurani Tai Jaya Gaurani Tai Gaurani Tai Jaya Gaurani Tai Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Namo Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivargacharya Stotra, His Divine Grace Abhay Charanara Linga Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namo Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivargacharya Stotra, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Mathura Dham Mayapur Jagannath Puri Pandharpur Arvadi Kurukshetra Ayodhya Dwarika Dham Ki Jai. Shri Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Tulasi Devi Maharani Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the Simul devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the Simul devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the Simul devotees, Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, kripa sindubhya evacha, patitanam pavanebhyo, vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much, dear devotees, for joining today's class. I look forward to meeting you all again next week. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.